Good afternoon, dear friends. Today we are here to discuss a few topics about transducers. So, starting with basics of information, how the transducers are working, or what exactly is definition of a transducer. Defining precisely device that is capable of being activated by a form of energy and in turn generating a related signal converted to another form. That is basically converting one physical energy to another form of physical energy. This is called a transducer. Another definition for the same, that is device which converts one physical quantity or condition to another physical quantity, that is called a transducer. So this is the simplest definition of transducer. Basically transducers are utilized to measure different form of quantities. For example, the quantities that we are defining or that we are interested in are temperature, pressure, flow, liquid level, displacement, vibration, rotation, magnetic fields, acceleration, chemical species, forces, radiation, pH, humidity, strain, velocity, electric fields, acoustic fields, and whatnot. So anything that we are interested in measuring can be measured using different or some other kind of transducers. So whatever device that you are using to measure such kind of quantities or such quantities, that we can define or classify in the category of transducer. Basically, transducers are of two types: electrical transducers and non-electrical transducers. Those transducers which cannot give electrical output, they are called non-electrical transducers, while those which can directly convert a physical quantity in an electrical type, that is considered an electrical transducer. So defining it precisely, sensing device which measures the quantity and transforms it into either electrical current or voltage, that is called electrical transducer. The categories are, for example, that is piezoelectric transducers, photovoltaic cells, LVDTs. Such transducers are directly giving the output in terms of current or voltage. The advantages of these transducers are ease of measurement. You can make easy measurement using different electrical kind of meters. The ease of signal conditioning is another thing. You can amplify the signal, that is output of a transducer, filter it, scale it, multiplex it, modulate it, and whatever is possible with electrical or electronic kind of manipulation. Another advantage is direct indication at remote terminal. No need to be at physical touch with the measuring terminal. You can place the measuring transducer at the system or at the plant, and you can measure the same thing with a cabling or wireless connection at a remote place. In addition, all advantages that is available with electronic system like recording, analysis, then spectrum analysis, whatever are available, they can be utilized. Last and final, that is customization. You can modify one form of energy to another form. That is, modification of transducer is also possible. So you can modify it according to your requirement. For example, if we are interested in measuring level, then with certain modifications, if you are measuring the pressure of a particular tank, then whatever is the pressure at the bottom can be converted to equivalent level. Now this is possible with electrical transducers. Further classifying the transducers, here the categories are namely active and passive kind of transducers, analog and digital transducers, contacting and non-contacting type of transducers, inverse transducers, and based on principle of transduction it can be classified. We'll discuss each of them in detail. Furthering the discussion, starting with passive transducers. By name itself, it's a passive device that does not have its own energy generation. The device that requires power to operate itself, that is called device which is passive. The device which derive power from transduction devices or transduction from auxiliary power source, that is called passive transducers. While those which does not require power, they are called active by default. Passive transducers are externally powered, means it requires either AC or DC power supply for the operation, and without that power supply it will not work for longer duration. Without that it will not provide any transformation of signal. The examples are resistive devices, inductive devices, capacitive devices, thermoresistive, electroresistive, Hall effect devices, gyros, photoconductive cells, photoconductive devices. Such kind of devices require power for the operation. So when they are provided with proper power supplies, whether it is AC or DC, they will be working for sensing of the particular quantity. means they can be utilized. For example, if I want to use a resistive device for pressure measurement, I require to provide power supply to a potentiometer, and this potentiometer can be utilized or can be scaled in terms of pressure. If I want to go for LVDT to be utilized for pressure measurement or displacement measurement, I will have to activate or excite the LVDT with AC power supply. So such are the examples of passive devices. Another category is active transducers. Active transducers are by name itself active, means they are having their own generation of power. No power is required or no external power supply is required to produce output. They are self-generating or often called self-generating transducers. They draw power from the input applied, means whatever form of energy you are converting, that energy is converted automatically or internally to an electrical kind of output. The examples are piezoelectric crystals. So whenever we are applying some pressure on the piezoelectric crystal, it generates an EMF across the terminals. So this is basically converting the pressure or change of dimension to electrical signals. Thermocouples. So whenever the junction is exposed to a temperature, according to Seebeck effect, the temperature is generating EMF across the two terminal or across the junction. Photovoltaic cell, just like solar cell, photovoltaic cell is accepting the energy in terms of optical radiation, and that radiation energy is converted to electrical energy. Pyroelectric devices, galvanic devices, electromagnetic devices, etc. are the examples of active transducers. Analog transducers. Almost all transducers that you see around yourselves are analog. Basically, they are measuring continuously whatever quantity that we are interested in. For example, if we are interested in pressure measurement, we can utilize different kind of devices. Almost all devices that you are having for pressure measurement are analog devices. Analog devices are having one thing good, that it gives a continuous function of measurement. So whatever quantity that you are measuring is continuously measured, not in discrete. Means there is no skipping of a step, skipping of certain minor part of information in that measurement. So the advantages are it's having a higher resolution and higher accuracy. So with best accuracy and highest resolution, you can go for measurement with help of analog output. There are certain disadvantages. For example, they cannot be processed very easily on the digital computing systems. So if I want to accept it for digital computing system, I will have to add analog to digital conversion, and at the receiving end, digital to analog converters in addition to whatever is the processing circuitry. The examples of such transducers are strain gauge, LVDT, thermocouple, RTD, Bourdon tube, etc. All these devices are widely utilized in almost all measurement industries, and they are all analog devices. The another category that you may be looking for is digital transducers. Digital transducers are those which are working in quantized manner. It converts whatever is the measurand quantity directly to digital form. So in digital form, we are having different outputs. The output is simply quantized or discrete in nature. Means after 1 there will be 2. There is nothing like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So there is certain restriction of decimal point of resolution. If I am having an analog quantity, there is no such restriction, but in case of digital, the restriction will be put by the number of digits that you are able to measure. The advantages of this particular system are noise immunity. First of all, because whenever the communication is there, means I want to measure a quantity at certain location, I want to transmit it at a remote location for the processing, then there will be communication, and communication is directly linked with noise. So if I want to go for larger noise immunity, it is better to go with digital transducers. Analog transducers are very prone to noises. The another advantage that one can look for is storage of digital information. We are living in digital era. So we are surrounded by digital devices like computers or data loggers. So all these devices are supporting digital data. None of the devices you can have today that records analog information. So storage is very easy with digital kind of transducers, because directly it measures digital, directly it gives you the output in digital form. The another advantage that I have not mentioned here is it skips the requirement of analog to digital conversion and digital to analog conversion directly. Next advantage is data analysis. Whatever data that is available in digital form can be analyzed very easily with softwares available on PC. You are now having different statistical softwares, different analytical softwares, different trend making softwares, that all softwares one can utilize to get trend of a parameter, trend of a particular quantity, and you can take it for the further utilization. Compression of data. If you are having large amount of information available or large amount of data available, digital compression techniques are also available. And last is adaptability with whatever is newer computer technology. Digital data is directly adaptable for the computers. The examples of digital transducers are spatial encoders, normally utilized for detection of angle or angular measurement. Then switch kind of transducers, that is normally we are knowing as temperature switch, pressure switch, or displacement switch, or limit switch, whatever are the switches, they are directly digital transducers. So this is what we have discussed about analog and digital kind of transducers. That is basically a bridge line or demarcation line between analog world and digital world. The another category is contacting and non-contacting kind of transducers. Contacting transducers, starting with the transducer that is placed in measuring environment. For example, if I want to measure temperature with a simple glass thermometer, if you are suffering with fever, the thermometer is placed in your mouth. So that is basically making a contact of your mouth temperature or under tongue temperature to the glass or the mercury bulb in the glass thermometer. So this is the basic phenomena. If I want to measure certain physical properties, then you need to make the transducer in contact or in proximity of the environment where you are measuring it. Such kind of transducers are working finely without any problem. The physical contact is required. That is the basic thing. Another example for these are, if you go through the tachometer of your bike or your car, a cable is connected directly from the wheel through a worm gear to the odometer that is available on your desk. So that is another kind of transducer, which is again contacting kind of transducers. So almost all temperature transducers, almost all mechanical measurement devices are basically contacting kind of devices. The contacting devices are having some limitations. The limitation is, if it is used for mechanical kind of measurement where frequent vibration is exposed, where the same device is to be utilized for a continuous rotation, then tear and wear and mechanical damages are there. So it requires frequent replacement. So contacting devices are normally used where the device or where the transducer is safe. Another possible example of avoiding contacting type of transducer is hazardous environment or corrosive environment. So some transducers cannot be pushed or cannot be placed in corrosive environment where there is chances of getting corrosion. Another environment is inflammable kind of environment where you cannot expose electrical connections. So such kind of places are there where it is possible or it is always advisable to avoid physical contacts. So in that condition, one can go for non-contacting type of transducers. Here the requirement is not a physical contact. Means you can place the transducer at a distant location. The location should be comparatively distant. For example, the examples given are pyrometers. The pyrometer is basically utilized for measurement of temperature. One can measure temperature from a remote location. Most possibly pyrometers are utilized in temperature range above 1000 or 2000 degrees Celsius. Now these are the possible conditions where if you are having a transducer made of iron, will melt down. So pyrometers are basically taking help of optical measurement, that is measurement of either infrared or measurement of flame color in order to estimate the temperature. The another example is optical tachometers. The optical tachometers are also taking help of measurement of optical light breakage or optical edge isolators to measure the number of revolutions. Radar type of sensors where the signal is transmitted and reflected back. The time taken for reflection is counted in order to measure the displacement or distance between the sensor and the exact physical object. Stroboscope is another example. So these are some examples of non-contacting type of transducers. They are basically utilized where it is not possible to make a physical contact between the object where you are supposed to measure the parameter and your transducers. Inverse transducer. Now this is a transducer which converts electrical signal into some other physical quantity. Till now we have been talking about converting a quantity to electrical one so that it can be measured with electrical motion detectors or electrical meters very easily. But how the electrical quantities will be measured? Because whatever we are having as a deflection galvanometer is measuring a angular motion or angular displacement. So basically in case of galvanometer or in case of voltmeter, we require to convert a voltage or current or whatever is the electrical quantity to equivalent angular displacement. So a simplest example is PMMC or whatever is your deflection meters are. So PMMC deflection system is simplest example of inverse transducer or electrical heating system for measurement of true RMS measurement. The last category or last classification criteria is based on the principle that we are utilizing for the measurement. Different principles are available. This is just I am mentioning for 5 or 6, but the list is endless. Thermoelectric kind of measurement, where temperature is converted to electrical quantity. The temperature is generated to whatever effect, correct? So temperature is generated due to different effects. For example, if I am utilizing cycles of thermodynamics, then temperature may be due to the change of pressure, may be due to the change of motion. That temperature is converted to electrical quantity and ultimately measured. Magnetoresistive, the change of magnetic resistance is measured. Electrokinetic, optical measurement, maybe optical means resistance due to the optical phenomena, maybe the voltage due to optical phenomena, or maybe photoemission, whatever effect. Electromechanical kind of measurement, piezoelectric kind of measurement. So different principles are being utilized for the measurement techniques. So whatever measurement technique that we are whatever principle you are placing beyond the measurement, that is again defining the classification of a particular measurement technique. So this is how we can classify different type of transducers. So transducers are basically classified, revising briefly, into different categories, electrical and non-electrical. Further classifying them, it can be classified as either active transducer or passive transducers. Active transducers called self-generating transducers, which can generate the signal on its own, does not require power supply. Passive transducers are those which cannot generate signal on its own. It requires either AC or DC excitation in order to perform the conversion. Followed by another category, contacting or non-contacting type of transducers, analog and digital transducers, inverse transducers, and it can be classified on the basis of principle that we are using. So this is how one can classify different kind of transducers. Today we are restricting ourselves to basic measurement of pressure and temperature, because these are the two quantities most oftenly being measured in different industrial applications. So starting first of all with pressure transducer. How one can define pressure? So according to our physics studies, we know that pressure is force per unit area, defined in units Newton per meter square or Pascal. This is what we are having as a primary information of pressure. How the pressure is generated? If I am applying force on certain object with certain area of cross section, that is going to generate some pressure. So pressure can be measured in different ways according to our requirement. So the requirements are absolute pressure measurement, where the reference is zero pressure, gauge pressure measurement, where gauge pressure will be the reference, and differential pressure measurement, where the pressure is measured at one object is being compared to the another pressure that you are having as a reference. So three different kind of measurements are there: absolute pressures, gauge pressures, and differential pressures, depending on the requirement that you are having. Different kind of transducers. Physically speaking, there are two different categories. One is gravitational kind of transducers, where gravity is making a base of measurement, while the second one is elastic measurement, where elasticity property is being exploited in order to measure the pressure. The example of gravitational measurement are manometer. Different manometers we are aware of, that is either a U-tube manometer you are having, or inclined tube manometer you are having, or you are having another kind of manometer, that is cistern manometer. So these are the manometers that you are going to look for. These manometers are having a liquid filled in a tube, and that you can utilize for measurement of pressure. The another category is elastic measurement or elastic properties being exploited to measure the pressure. Ultimately, a force is applied to an object that is elastic, and whatever is the strain generated in that particular object is actually the measurement of pressure. So here the transducers are of elastic type: diaphragm type, capsules, bellow, Warden tubes or helical tubes. These are the examples of elastic kind of transducers. Manometers. It measures the static pressure. It cannot be utilized for dynamic pressure measurement. So it is normally utilized for static measurement. It's simple U-tube. That U-tube is filled with a liquid. If pressure is equal on both sides, the level of both tubes will be same. So whatever is the difference of that level, that is indicating the difference of pressure on both sides. The expression is given here. Here the expression is given, that is H, that is height difference between two levels of pressure or two meniscus that is existing in two different tubes. That is equivalent to pressure difference divided by rho and G, where rho is the density of the liquid that you are using. So if you want to go for lower pressure measurement, you can use light density materials. If you want to go for high pressure measurement, you can utilize a higher density material to be filled in the tube. Different variants are available for manometers depending on the requirement of your devices. The examples are simple U-tube that we are aware of, that may be available in our 11th-12th physics laboratories. The another variant is inclined tube manometer. U-tube manometer is having a limitation that you can measure distance or displacement or height in terms of not more than 1 millimeter. The resolution that is available is up to 1 millimeter. But if you do the same thing, whatever is the another tube can be slanted. So whatever is the angle that you are having, that theta will help in increasing the cos theta. So whatever is the measurement, that will be diagonal measurement, and that diagonal measurement will be extending the range of measurement. So you will be having a comparatively larger resolution of measurement. The technique does not vary at all. The technique remains same, but whatever is the height that you are measuring, that will be extended. So you will be having a little bit more resolution for the measurement. The third type is cistern measurement or well type measurement. The well type manometer is having a well or a reservoir made of whatever fluid that you are using. So, and in that particular reservoir, a thin tube or a very narrow tube is extracted. So from that extracted tube, we are trying to measure the pressure. So whatever is well, that is applied with the measuring pressure, while whatever is the height that is raised in the narrow tube, that will be giving direct measurement of the pressure. Furthermore, variants are also available. If I want to go for very minute measurement of pressure or very small pressure differences to be measured, then in that case, whatever nanometers, that can be supported with micrometer screws. So with help of micrometer screws, you can go up to 0.001 or even less, 0.001 millimeter or even lesser dimension. And such kind of micrometer screws are having a sensors placed at the tip of the micrometer screw that senses the touch of the meniscus of liquid. Either it is an electrical kind of sensor or it can be a visible kind of sensor, optical kind of sensor. So both kind of sensors are available. So with this particular technique, it is possible that you will have a measurement of very small pressure. So this is something about manometers. Manometers are having a basic limitation that it can be utilized for static pressures, not for the dynamic pressure measurement. So if I want to go for dynamic pressure measurement or any other kind of measurement, I will have to go for another category, that is elastic kind of devices. The elastic kind of devices used for pressure measurement are starting with the first one, or the most basic, is diaphragm. The basic principle of this one is as good as using a balloon for blowing it off. So if you are putting some air in a balloon, the balloon gets expanded. Almost same thing happens here. A common pressure sensing element is a simple thin plate of metal that is placed or that is fastened at a periphery of a tube. Through the tube, whatever pressure that you are exerting, that pressure is trying to extend or expand the diaphragm from the center. So whatever is the diaphragm, that gets extended. Your diaphragm gets extended, and due to that extension of diaphragm, your diaphragm is making or generating some displacement. This displacement is proportional to the pressure that you have applied. This is the basic principle that is being exploited. Different kind of materials are being utilized for manufacturing of the element. Basically, elastic alloys of bronze, phosphor bronze, SS, or alloys like Monel or nickel span S are being utilized. The thickness of this particular element is again of importance. So starting from smallest amount of pressure to be measured to higher pressure to be measured, the thickness goes on increasing in order to support a larger pressure sustaination. Two kind of diaphragms, flat and corrugated. Flat kind of diaphragms are whatever exactly I have defined for the definition of diaphragm, a simple metallic plate joined together at the periphery, and through the tube you are applying or exerting some pressure. Due to the pressure, the plate gets expanded. This is basically happening. Now whatever is this displacement cannot be very large. Normally this displacement will be in few millimeters. So if I want to have a larger deflection or larger displacement to be generated for the same amount of pressure to be applied, I will have to make the plate, instead of plain, corrugated. So I am having a corrugated plate, and that corrugated plate is generating larger amount of deflection. Whatever is deflection, that is comparatively 5 to 10 fold higher as compared to flat type. The advantage of flat type is it is having, or a disadvantage of flat type is having very small deflection, and it is also prone to a natural frequency of resonance, while corrugated kind of devices or corrugated diaphragms are offering larger deflections for the measurement. The larger deflection means you are able to measure it more with higher resolution. So resolution is comparatively larger. Different forms of corrugation is also available. The examples are sawtooth, trapezoidal, sinusoidal and toroidal. So these are the different formats available for the corrugation of the plate, and this offers you different amount of displacement for the same pressure that you have applied. Another device that is used for measurement of pressure is capsules. Capsules are nothing but two diaphragms connected back to back at the periphery, and one of them is allowed with pressure insertion or allowing of the airflow. So two corrugated metal diaphragms sealed together at the periphery, that is what is the definition of capsule. In this particular form, one of the diaphragm is having an inlet port at the center. Through this inlet port we are allowing the admission of the pressure. So pressure is allowed from this particular port. Now whenever this particular thing happens, the diaphragm starts expanding from the center. So whatever is the expansion of a particular diaphragm is doubled in case of capsule. So capsule is offering almost double displacement as compared to a diaphragm. In many versions, more than one capsules can be cascaded. Means one capsule is cascaded with another one, or another can be cascaded to third one. Not more than 3 is a custom. So a single capsule or 2 capsules or 3 capsules are, I think, more than sufficient. Whatever is the another part of the capsule that is connected to a moving part. Now that moving part can be connected to pointer or can be connected to rack and pinion arrangement in order to make the displacement of a deflection pointer. So deflection pointer can be displaced using that particular device. Here displacement is proportional to the differential pressure, the pressure between the inner part of the diaphragm and exterior part of the diaphragm. It can be utilized as a single or cascaded one. So this is about the capsule kind of measurement. Here is a basic diagram of capsule shown. So this is how the capsule is supposed to work. From the inside or from the lower part, if you are exerting some pressure, so here if you are exerting some pressure, the capsule gets expanded in upward direction. So this particular thing is with the capsule. The another device that is more popular for measurement of pressure is Bourdon tube. As compared to diaphragm and capsule, Bourdon tube is more popularly utilized for measurement of pressure. Bourdon tubes are basically nothing but curved or twisted metallic tubes with an elliptical cross section at the center. What happens? They are sealed at the one end. So whenever you are trying to exert pressure from the open end, whatever is the curvature that tries to decrease, means it tries to straighten itself whenever the pressure is applied. So this is the basic phenomena that we are utilizing. How much straightening is taking place? So larger the pressure, larger is the straightening. Smaller the pressure, smaller is the straightening. So whatever is the angular displacement that it generates, that angular displacement is simply proportional to the amount of pressure that you have applied. So angular sensitivity is proportional to pressure that we have applied. Different formats of Bourdon tubes are available. C shape, which is one of the most popular one, followed by helical, spiral and twisted. Bourdon tubes. Bourdon tubes are fabricated with metal alloys. Different metal alloys like brass, phosphor, bronze, beryllium, copper, stainless steel, nickel alloys like nickel, spancy are being utilized for measurement of pressure. It is very sensitive to shock and vibration. So they are mostly utilized for static applications. Normally the kind of sensors that you are finding at the cylinders of gas, means pressure cylinders that is we are having, or at the domestic connections of pipelines, these all are indicating the pressure with help of Bourdon tubes. The advantage of this one is its cost effectiveness. It's very cheap and can be utilized for longer operation without any problem. The another thing is good repeatability and very good dynamic response. It can be utilized for a faster measurement and repeatability is excellent. So this is something about different kind of pressure transducers. Pressure transducers or sensors that what we have talked about, it converts the pressure in different kind of displacement or different another physical quantities. For example, starting with the diaphragm, whatever pressure that you are applying, that converts the pressure to the expansion of the diaphragm, means it converts it to displacement. Again, followed by the diaphragm is capsule, that again converts the pressure into displacement. Bellow is another transducer that is also converting the pressure into displacement. Last is Bourdon tube that also converts the pressure into angular displacement. But this is about the displacement. Ultimately what we are interested in is measurement of electrical quantity that can be put on your meter. So if I want to go for direct measurement, then I will have to connect one of the that whatever displacement that you are having to rack and pinion or mechanical arrangement, so that it can be indicated on pointer. તમે એને pointer पे indicate કરી શકો. If you can indicate it on pointer with this particular technique, it is very possible that if you are having a simple scale that I am placing, so to the top of a particular diaphragm or to the top of a particular bellow, if we are placing a scale and that scale is having a vertical line, on vertical line we can mark it with pressures. So that particular scale can be utilized for measurement of pressure. Another thing is rack and pinion arrangement. Whatever is the linear displacement can be converted to angular displacement, and that angular displacement can be marked on a semicircular kind of scale. Here is transduction from displacement to electrical quantity. The different transduction methods are potentiometric method. Whatever is the displacement that is generated from the pressure measurement transducers, that is connected to a potentiometer, and the potentiometer is giving nothing but the differential array, the drop of voltage across the lower part of the potentiometer. So whatever is the voltage that you are having out of the potentiometer will be proportional to angular or linear displacement that you are having. Connection of strain gauge. If we are bonding strain gauge at different locations, either in diaphragm or in capsules or at bellows, whatever is the strain generated due to exertion of the pressure, that is changing the resistance of the strain gauge, and that difference of resistance can be measured using Wheatstone bridge or some other bridges in order to give you the electrical output. LVDT, the displacement measuring device of reluctance, variable reluctance type. In this case, LVDT core can be connected directly to the displacement device like diaphragm or bellow, and whatever is the displacement of that particular device will generate differential output from the LVDT. Variable reluctance devices or variable capacitance devices. So different transduction methods can be utilized in order to convert whatever is the displacement due to pressure into electrical quantity. So ultimately what you will be having at the final point is electrical quantity output, maybe electrical voltage, maybe electrical current, either AC or DC according to the requirement. So this is something about pressure transducers that I have planned. The next thing that I have planned is temperature transducers. Basically temperature transducers are categorized in two categories, non-electrical and electrical. What are the non-electrical quantities or non-electrical kind of devices? Metal expansion. starting with the first one. Metal expansion devices. We know that thermionic expansion is common with metals or almost all physical materials. So whenever you are hitting a rod of metal, that metal gets expanded. Now this particular property can be utilized for measurement of temperature, how much it gets expanded. The expansion or displacement, both of the things can be connected to another devices that is available with the different transduction technique, maybe potentiometric technique, maybe capacitive technique, or variable reluctance technique. Ultimately it converts whatever is the expansion of metal into temperature equivalent scale. The second type of device is bimetallic kind of device. If two metals linked together or joined together are heated, as both of them are having different expansion coefficient, it will start bending in such device or in direction of such metal where the expansion coefficient is smaller. Now this particular property can be utilized in order to measure the temperature. Larger the temperature that you are applying, larger will be the bending. So whatever is the angular motion or angular displacement that you are having, that is again a property or a function of temperature. Third category is liquid in glass kind of device. The mercury thermometer is a common example, alcohol thermometer. So different kind of glass thermometers that you are having, that is nothing but simple liquid in glass thermometer. Again the example or the property that we are using is expansion due to thermal energy. So whatever happening is this, you are applying some temperature, due to the thermal energy that has been transferred, the expansion of liquid is taking place, and that expansion of liquid is making raising of either mercury or alcohol in the glass tube. So whatever is the level that you are raising, that is simply indicative of the temperature. The last category is vapor pressure. Here is simple utilization of famous physics expression PV is equal to nRT. So if you are keeping pressure constant, temperature is also remaining constant, and pressure and temperature both are trying to be proportional to each other in a closed basket or closed system. So what happens when you are increasing the temperature? Due to temperature inside the unit, the pressure builds up, and that pressure is equivalent to your temperature. So instead of directly measuring temperature, if we are exposing a closed system to a temperature prone zone, the temperature is, or the thermal energy is transferred to that particular system, and that system is having a larger pressure generated inside the system now. So ultimately we are measuring pressure, but we are reading it in terms of temperature. So larger the temperature, larger the pressure, and that larger pressure you are reading in terms of temperature. So ultimately the equation that we are utilizing is pressure is proportional to temperature in order to measure the temperature. The second category of the device is electrical kind of device. Electrical devices are again of different categories or different type. Starting with the first one is metal resistors. We know the properties of metal. Metals are basically crystalline inside the structure. So if it is exposed to electrical potential, the current flows from one end to another end, passing through the lattice structure of the metal. In the path, it collides with the lattice particles or lattice members, and this particular collision is introducing resistance inside the body of device. So whatever is the electrical resistance, that is due to the vibration of the lattice structure or lattice particles. This particular lattice particle vibration is actually generating the resistance. If I increase the temperature, or if somebody is increasing the temperature of a metal body, the lattice vibration also increases, and lattice vibration is increasing the resistance or chances of collision of electron. More the chances of collision of electron, larger is the resistance. So with increment of temperature, it is likely that the resistance will also build up, and this resistance build up can be measured in terms of temperature. The second category is semiconductor resistors. Semiconductor resistors are made from semiconductor material, and we know that in case of semiconductor materials, the resistance is not due to the collision of lattice crystals or electrons with the lattice particles, but whatever is resistance, that is due to the unavailability of the carriers, or amount of carriers that is available will decide the conductivity of the material. So in case of semiconductors, at room temperature the resistivity is larger, while as you go on increasing the temperature, thermionically generated carriers are added to the number of carriers that is available at the lower temperature. So larger the temperature, larger is the addition of carriers. So more the carriers added, smaller is the resistance. So with increment of temperature, it is quite clear that the resistance will go on dropping. So this particular physical phenomena can be utilized in order to read temperature with help of semiconductor resistors. The third category is thermocouple. Here we are utilizing the phenomena of two different metals joined or diffused together. So when two metals diffuse together, they will make a junction, and on this junction there is existing a potential difference or difference of carrier concentration across junction at different temperature. So at some temperature or at some other temperature, the concentrations are different, and if the difference of concentration is there, obviously there is difference of potential. So whatever is EMF generated across the junction, that is again a function of temperature. So this particular basic phenomena is being exploited in thermocouples. The last category is crystals. A piezoelectric crystal exposed to temperature also generates EMF across the terminals. Discussing the metal resistance in more details. The resistance of metal is due to the vibration of lattice elements that already we have discussed. The vibration is basically function of temperature. If you go on increasing temperature, the vibration is increasing rapidly, and these vibrations are increasing the hurdles in passing of the electrons. So due to this particular phenomena, the resistance increases. What are the metals that is preferred in manufacturing of the metal resistors? They are nickel, tungsten, aluminium, lead, silver, gold, platinum, etc. The famous name that you may have heard is PT100. PT100 is a 100 ohm platinum wire at 0 degrees Celsius temperature, normally being utilized as an industrial standard for temperature measurement. All the metals are offering a positive temperature coefficient. It means the resistance will go on increasing with different temperature. Okay, depending on the requirement of sensitivity that you are requiring for, you need to go for different materials or different metals of manufacturing. For example, PT100 is having a 36 ohm increment at 100 degrees Celsius, means its sensitivity is somewhat around 1/36 ohms per degree Celsius. So this is the sensitivity of platinum. If I go from platinum to gold or silver, the sensitivity is smaller, but instead of that, if I go with a higher resistive material, then the sensitivity will be comparatively higher. So if I want to go for smaller temperature measurement or minute temperature measurement, then I will have to go for a material which is having higher resistivity. If I want to go for larger temperature measurement, means I will have to select a material which can sustain larger temperature. For example, at a temperature of 500 or 600 degrees Celsius, it is preferable to go with platinum, because platinum can exist up to 1400 degrees Celsius without any problem. But normally metal resistant devices are not preferred beyond 400 degrees Celsius. Semiconductor resistance devices. Normally semiconductor devices, as we have discussed, are generating larger amount of carriers at higher temperatures. So with increasing the population of carriers, the resistance drops. What are the materials being utilized? Normally semiconductors kind of resistance devices are not being utilizing silicon or germanium. Instead of silicon and germanium, they are utilizing different oxides of ferrous, manganese, nickel, cobalt and copper in order to make sintered ceramics. These sintered ceramics are showing semiconductor property, and they can be utilized for manufacturing of the devices, that is called semiconductor resistors, or more popularly are called thermistors. Different formations of this particular device is very easily available. Now why they are preferred more in this particular industry? Because they can be formed either in bead or disc or washer or wherever you want to place it. So according to the placement requirement, you can select its shapes. So they are available in large amount of shapes. The another property that is more favorable in this particular device, that is thermistors, is its high sensitivity of measurements. So whatever is the unit change in resistance per change in resistance per unit change in temperature is also very large. It is having negative temperature coefficient, means the resistance is decreasing with increasing temperature. But the thing that is I mentioned is very high sensitivity of measurement. Thermocouples. Two dissimilar metals diffuse together to make a junction. In brief, this can be defined for a thermocouple. So different metals are available: bismuth, alumyl, constant, platinum, rhodium, chromel. Different combination is generating different kind of thermocouples. Industrially, if you are going for, then you are having different type of thermocouples available, that is T-type transducers, S-type transducers, and so on. The effect that is behind, or principle behind, the thermocouples operation is Seebeck effect. Exactly defining Seebeck effect: due to different concentration of carriers at different temperature, the EMF produced is also different, and this is proportional to temperature. So this is just, I have tried to make it as concise as possible to explain the Seebeck effect. So this is what I have planned for measurement of transducers. So if anybody is having some queries, they can